So yeah, my name's Nick. I'm a builder in the space for a while now. I've been working on HATS protocol for 3 years. First got interested in DAOs in 2017. And HATS is really about creating specific roles and responsibilities within an organizational structure so that you can minimize the number of votes that need to happen in the DAO and maximize the effectiveness of the use of resources and the decision making to achieve the objectives of the organization. So I'll show you guys a little bit of how HATS work. I'm probably not going to be able to see the chat. So if anyone wants to interrupt, shoot. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, I actually can see the chat. That's great. Cool. So yeah, so we built this just to talk a little bit about like the structure and its composability. You know, we outline it here on the ethos part of our website, but you know, it's fully open source. It's decentralized, so the V1 protocol contracts are all you know, immutable, unowned, not upgradable on Ethereum and all the other chains where it's deployed. You can go directly to the GitHub repo, grab it and deploy it on a new chain, but we probably already support the chains you want to integrate with. And it's designed to be composable. So we really focused on like how to make it interoperable with all different other accounts. So a lot of times you'll see like in a given structure, you'll see like a DAO contract that is wearing the top hat and that gives it admin responsibility over other hats. And then you have maybe another DAO contract, you know, several safes, right? Any existing Ethereum building blocks that you have for smart accounts can be used for controlling hats, and then by way of that, they become an admin of all these other parts of the structure. So let me show you a little bit of a simpler tree than our main tree that we use to explain how this works. The core concept is usually we have a top hat is controlled by a DAO. You have token holders. They can buy the token. They can vote in a governor DAO or something like that. We have an admin contract that helps to manage all of the permissions. If there's like eligibility requirements or you have to stake in order to get certain hats that are lower children in the tree, then usually we handle that here. And then in Rare DAO's case and in Treasure DAO's case and in many other examples, we see this very simple structure, which is a council that sort of serves as an executive or sometimes a security council that can govern a set of responsibilities on behalf of the DAO, so the DAO doesn't have to vote on every single thing. That's sort of like the core motion that you see over and over again in HATS is like, how can we take a set of resources and a set of decisions and give it to a smaller group of people for the purposes of reducing costs and then sometimes getting better decisions, right? Because sometimes the wisdom of the crowd is not better than, you know, in this case, a council of 7 elected experts sort of making decisions and moving fast. In this case, this is a safe here. And then underneath the safe, they have a bunch of other you know, the grants team, the DAO ops team, the actual foundation roles like the foundation director, the supervisor. You know, you can allocate funds directly to that. So other people who will be presenting later on the call will talk about how to do the allocation of funds to the different safes and smart accounts that are involved in this structure. But this just lets you set up the actual admin permissions and access control. And if you don't already know, hats are, you know, they're transferable only by the admin, but they're non-transferable by the wearer. So these 7 people who have been elected to this role, they got the role token, the hat, by way of the election process via the full DAO, but they can't transfer that token to somebody else or sell it on OpenSea or something like that. They can only renounce it if they no longer want the responsibilities, or the DAO can sort of take it from them and give it to somebody else. This front end is a little bit, from a builder perspective, it's a little bit opinionated about what sort of belongs inside of a hat. If we go over to the actual, like what the hat looks like on Etherscan, you can see what the hat details actually include. So we say view hat. We can grab the token ID right from this button here. And then that ID should register. This is what it actually looks like on chain. So The details here is an IPFS link. So all this text information, the various authorities and links that are included here, that's all consolidated into an IPFS file and JSON object and IPFS, and then hosted automatically. So you get decentralization off the bat if you use our app. But if you're building something from scratch, you can put any string that you want into this details field. Image works the same way. We automatically pin a JPEG to IPFS and then put that IPFS link on chain. But if you wanted to put something else in this field, you totally could. You just have to figure out the front end that you want to surface it with. The max supply, the total supply of the hat so far, so like 7 out of 7 have been minted. Eligibility and toggle are module smart contracts that can be plugged in to change the way that the hat is granted. So in this case, we ran an election process. You can see that this smart contract here is going to be, I think it's an allow list module in this case. It's a little more complicated. I can explain, if you are going to be building with eligibility modules, I can explain them to you in detail. And we also have like very robust docs that explain all of these components, but we're available on Telegram, happy to help answer questions. But the idea is that you can write a custom smart contract that defines the requirements for someone to get a given hat, and it'll automatically revoke it if they no longer meet those criteria. And someone can claim it if you make it claimable and they meet all of the criteria. So in this case, they had to win an election, and then they could claim the hat that showed, because on chain, there's the signifier that they've actually won the election already. And what that does is it creates a very small surface area for you to ship like net new smart contracts that are, 50 lines or 100 lines that are very simple and, low sort of like security auditing needs. But it also makes it very, very customizable. So if you want to look at ERC20 balances, or you want to look at, NFT balances, or you want to have someone stake in order to be eligible to get a hat, you can write those contracts very easily. And we already have 20 or 30 of them that have been used in production that you can implement pretty easily from the app. From a user perspective, what we offer is an edit mode. So you can do all these sort of configurations. You jump in here and you can change the text, automatically save it to IPFS. You can update the eligibility modules like we just talked about. That sort of gives you some options for what these are, and then the ability to configure them. And anytime you make changes and want to actually deploy, you press save, and you get this shopping cart that shows the changes. You can export so that you can share with other people, other team members, other people in your organization. You can import their changes, and then you also get transaction call data if you need to like import this into a save or like the tally front end or something like that. This will give you the code to actually execute these changes as the top hat, as opposed to just like whatever hat you're wearing in the tree. So yeah, that's the very high level. And again, yeah, I'll jump into questions now, because otherwise we could talk about this all day.
I love hats, so I can listen all day. Maybe I'll kick off with the first question, or more of a curious, and maybe it's still being developed, around trust zones. I watched the podcast you guys did. I'm just curious if there's any updates there. What's the release?
Yeah, so trust zones is a philosophical approach on how to design the right roles when you balance the effectiveness of that role, the cost basis of creating and what's the resources that are being delegated to that role, and then the decentralization that role has, or the hardness that the agents in that role offer to the admin. So you can think of this council as a trust zone, and it's the fact that it has like responsibility for the other roles, it has a budget allocated to it. Those are assets that are inside the trust zone. So we sort of broke down like, okay, what are all the parameters that we have? What are the levers that we can change? And then what mechanisms support those things from first principles over the last 3 years. And next week, we're going to publish an article that explains all that. The benefit of having it really clear is that we can use all the mechanisms that are available to us. In a lot of cases, that's like a DAO contract, a safe, HATS protocol, HATS eligibility modules, and now AI agents of various kinds to optimize across those trilemma parameters and make the best possible organizations. So what we're launching next will be a way of using HATS, which I just showed you in the app and all of the core protocol stuff, plus the philosophy and a lot of automation in order to make really, really good organizations. And because HATS is the substrate that all works with, it's going to be fundamentally interoperable and composable. So if you build a tool that works with HATS protocol today, it's going to be able to be used by people who want to use the Trust Zones philosophy and agents down the line.
Yes.
I see a comment in the chat about learning Astro and someone who made an app using HATS. That's very cool. We have, I think we have like 9 or 10 different front ends, including the HATS app. We had Cabin back in the day, built a custom front end. We've got Mezzanine building with HATS using for permission management, Decent DAO, and several others that are, sort of like took the protocol and its assurances at the protocol level, and we're able to just take it and run with it because it solved a specific problem for them from a developer perspective. No, we pay the pinning for IPFS for you. It's pretty trivial for us, so we can cover that, no problem. If you abuse it, then we'll be upset.
I see Yonks has your hand raised. Go for it, Yonks.
Yeah, as you know, Nick, love HATS, and was wondering if you have any great case studies of how organizations have elevated their onboarding experience and incorporated HATS into that onboarding process.
Yeah, that's a great question. We have some case studies here that are listed onto our website. I think the optimism fractal example could be pretty interesting here because it was really focused on access management and claiming a hat with an agreement. So one of the eligibility modules that's available is signing an agreement on chain. See, the text is pinned to IPFS, but the signature is committed by the wallet. I'm not saying anything about legal enforceability or anything like that, but you can see all the signatures from people that are claiming that hat. And then once you had the hat, you got access to, I think, the Charmverse or whatever people were using in their respect the game that Optimism Fractal was running. And that was really like community focused. Whereas like the tree that I was showing you with Rare DAO is much more focused on like, operating the governance surface with the token holders and like a legal foundation and managing the treasury, which is not as community oriented as that case study. It also just shows you sort of the breadth of different things that people can do with HATS, like the things that you can do with when you ask someone like, okay, what is a company for? It's like for a lot of different things. You might form different types of companies for different purposes, and like HATS, DAOs, HATS generally, like you can do any type of thing that you want: manage funds, manage community, bring people together for a cause, bring people together for building software. The variety there is as big as the imagination.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And if anyone is building and needs some help, feel free to message me on Telegram. I'm at Ninty Nick.
Yeah, Nick, I'm definitely gonna hit you up. I got a few more questions I want to jam on. So great stuff. Love it.
Awesome.